Welcome to this another exciting tutorial. Today we are going to talk about PHP basics. Okay, so in every language, every new language that you learn, there are some basics that you need to know that will be able to help you to be able to use that particular language with a lot of ease. Yeah, so these are the things that they are called fundamental principles of every language. So for a web developer, you need to understand, especially for a backend developer, you need to understand these syntax, or need to understand these basics so that it can give you the strong foundation of where PHP is built. Now let's go to our first principle, and the first principle is the comment principle. So when you talk about the comment, basically you mean the message that you want maybe a certain member of your team to access so that he can be able to maintain your code. Okay, so it is always recommended as a web developer, make sure that every statement that you write in your program has got a comment, so that in case that particular program develop a problem, then somebody else can be able to amend it, or somebody can be able to know what exactly you're doing in that particular area. Now there are two ways to write a comment in PHP. The first way is by using of the double forward slash. So you just write the double forward slash and then you write your single line comment in front here. Now supposing you want to write a multiple line comment. A multiple line comment always will start by having a forward slash, then an asterisk, then you write whatever you are supposed to write here that spans through multiple lines, and then you can have the asterisk and then the forward slash to close that particular comment there. So you can see here we have an example, and then one thing that you need to know that this particular area or this particular section of comments is ignored every time you pass that particular PHP script. Yeah, so when you run it in the web browser, you realize that these parts will be skipped during the process of passing that particular PHP script. Now when you talk about variables is also a very important area every time you talk about PHP. Now variables are just meant to help us to store data. It is just a way to help you to store data that is going to run on your website or in your web application. Yeah, so we have got sessions that we are going to handle in future when talk about sessions and talk about cookies, but basically when you have this, it's just a way to store data that is going to be used in your website. Okay, now how do you declare a variable in PHP? Basically you declare a variable by using the $sign and then followed by the variable name. So every time you want to come up with a new variable, you need to ensure that it starts with the $sign and then followed by the variable name. But something that you should also be able to be very cautious about is that there should be no space. There should be no space in between the dollar and the variable sign. Yeah. So in this particular case, for example, we have an example here. $sign now is equal to 10. So in this particular case, we have done two things. We have done the declaration of the variable, and then we have also done what we call initialization. We have given it the initial value. Yeah. So that is it about about how to create a variable. So maybe you can write a program, a very simple program here. Maybe if you missed my previous video, we created this file called example.php. So what I'm just going to do, I'm just going to do some kind of changes a little bit so that I can show you how this happens. So I'm going to remove this part in my program. Okay, so I want to remove this part of echo first, so that I can be able to show you how to create that particular variable. Now when you are here, you just need to have the $sign. So if you are using maybe a Windows operating system, you can just press shift and then 7 on your shift and then 4. Shift then 4 will allow you to get that $sign. Then you can just write there now. Yeah, or you can just write something like statement. Yeah, so I want to create a statement, and then in this statement I just want to say a double quotation. Maybe the statement is supposed to be I enjoy coding PHP. That is the statement that I want to display. Yeah, now this is just a variable. I've created a variable called SMT, which stands for statement, then followed by the before then it was supposed to have the $sign, which is here. then equal sign, I'm assigning the string. This is a string that I'm assigning to this particular variable. Now after doing that, if in case I just want to display the output in this particular case, I can just say echo, and then I just say $sign CMT. Yeah. So by so doing, what I'm just doing, I'm just going to call that value that I had stored in that particular variable. So if I save this and then I just go to my web browser and then I refresh, it should be able to display to me, I enjoy coding PHP. Yeah, I should be able to get that output in this particular case. Yeah, so that is how you can be able to declare a variable and also assign an initial value to it, and also how to display that value to your web browser. Now the next thing that you want to look at is that every time you talk about variables, there are some things that you need to remember. The first thing that you need to remember that they are case sensitive. Yeah, so there is a difference when you write this name, and there is a difference when you write this particular name. So this will be treated as two different variables. So make sure that the way you have spelled your variable name is very important. The second thing that you need to remember that always that every variable should start with a letter or an underscore. It should not start with a number. That is very important also to remember. Then you should only it should only contain alphanumeric values. So that is also very important for you to remember. Alphanumeric means letters and numerical values and so on and so forth. Okay. Now when you go to the next one, and is that when you talk about PHP, basically is a loosely typed language. And when you talk about loosely typed language, is that the data types are not defined. Yeah, the data types are not defined in this particular case. Now what happens every time you come up with a variable, or every time you come up with a value, it is going to do what we call implicit type conversion. Yeah, so PHP has an automated way to convert a variable into its correct data type. So you don't need to give a data type like, for example, what we have been doing in other languages, maybe C++ or other language that you have learned. You realize that you need to give explicit type conversion, or you need to declare the data type before every variable. So that one is not in this language. Now some of the data types that PHP works with, it works with things like integers, it works with float, it works with string, booleans, arrays, and objects. Yeah, so those are the data types that PHP rotates around every time you write a PHP program. Now sometimes you want to do a concatenation. Yeah, you want to join maybe multiple statements, or so that you can be able to have one statement. So concatenation, basically you want to combine different statements so that it can be one. Yeah, as displayed in this particular program, you want to write a very simple program here to concatenate something. So I want maybe to have this statement, yeah, and then I want to concatenate with another statement. So maybe I can create a different statement here. I can say that $sign, and then I can say last. Yeah, and then I can say that the passion for web development, yeah. So that is a statement that I want to concatenate the two of them. So what I'm going to do in this particular case, I'm supposed to have a statement. Yeah, like what you have seen in this particular case, you have got a statement, and then you need to connect these statements together. Yeah, so every statement will be going to be treated differently. Yeah, now when you come back to our program here, I want to start with this particular statement called last. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start with the $sign last. Yeah, but I want now to concatenate, so I need to put a period there. And then I say that the passion of web development starts, so I need to add a certain statement there, starts. Yeah, so that statement that I've just added need to be in quotes, double quotations. Yeah, is a statement that I'm defining directly in that particular statement. Yeah, and then after we say that the passion for web development starts with, maybe you can just write the with in front here, starts with, and then I can be able to connect, or I can be able to concatenate with the first statement. Yeah, I can be able to concatenate with the first statement, and the first statement there was cmt. Yeah, so the first variable. So what I'm going to do is, in this particular case, if I'm going to display this, is going to read the passion for web development starts with I enjoy coding PHP. Yeah, so that's the statement that is supposed to be printed out. So if I save this Ctrl+S and then I go to my web browser and then I refresh it, you should be able to see that statement appear. So there is something like, there is an error there saying syntax error, unexpected token echo. Yeah, so there's something that maybe I missed it out, and I know where the error is, so I needed to end this particular statement with a comma, a semicolon. So after doing that, I just save this and then I go back and then I do what, and you realize that that parse error disappears. Now the passion for web development starts. You can see there is no space in between here, so it means that there are some space that I need to position between this particular statement. So is either I create a space here before the period, or I can as well be able to create a space before the double quotation mark. So in either way you are comfortable with, you can be able to create the spacing in between there. So I can as well be able to do the same in this case. I can be able to create the space here so that we have enough space in between these words. So if I go in that particular case, I update it, you should be able to see that spacing has been brought on board. So okay, so I can think of putting some space here. Okay, let me just put some space here and then check how it's going to behave. Okay, so there's no difference. Let me try again. Okay, so if I put some space here inside here, let me try this and then see if it's going to bring that. Yeah, so I can see that spacing has been brought on board, and therefore I can also be able to position some space between with and I. So what I need to do inside the quotation before the end of that statement here, in between T and double quotation, closing double quotation, I press some space in between there like that, and then when I save and then I refresh this, you can see the spacing has already been created between there. So that is what we call concatenation. Concatenation basically multiple statements that you have, and therefore you need to join them together. So you do that by use of a period. Yeah, so when you continue in our slide, you realize that every time you talk about variables, you cannot be able to fail to talk about constants. So when you talk about constants, basically these are the values that do not change, or they are undefined. Yeah, we use define as a function called define, so that inside those parentheses you can be able to add the name of that constant and the value that is not going to change. Now in this case we have an example here. We have got a constant called message. You can see the way message is written in capital letters, and the value for that particular constant is happy coding. Yeah, so in this function we have created the name called message, and inside that we are going to give it a value of happy coding. So this particular value is not going to change throughout the program execution. Yeah, now there is something that you need to know, that in PHP it gives you the ability to define whether the constant is going to be case sensitive or case insensitive. So by default, if I just write like this, the way I've written at the top here, it is case insensitive, because the default value, the third parameter in this case, is supposed to be either is it going to be case sensitive or not. Now if you just leave it like this, it is case insensitive. This implies you are applying a false. But if you want to ensure that that particular constant is case sensitive, you are supposed to make sure you have a comma and ensure that you add in front there true. So implies that every time somebody types that particular constant, it needs to ensure that it is case sensitive. Yeah, so when you echo this message, you realize that there is a way that you are supposed to display. So in this case, if I run this, yeah, is it going to give me an output? Yeah, so you can try this program, maybe you can try this and then check if it is going to give us an output. So I'm just going to copy this program, copy these two statements, and then I want to place it down here. Yeah, like that. So that is the statement that I've just created, and then I just want to check if it's going to give me the feedback that I want. So if I save this and then I try to refresh, yeah, it should give me a pass error. It's giving me a pass error, and it's telling me that unidentified, unexpected identifier. Yeah, so there's that particular problem there. So if I try again to change, let me try to change this message to be in capital letters, and then I see if that error is going to be solved. So if I update that and then I pass it again, yeah, there's that error, still syntax error. They're saying unexpected identifier. Okay, so in line 12. So if I go back there, yeah, we are going to say that we have got an error in this particular line 12. Yeah, so let me check if there is an error there. Okay, so by default, if I just do some changes here, maybe I use the right double quotation, so I need to write I create the double quotation like that, and then also I make some changes. In this case, I use the double quotation, the correct double quotation, the way it's supposed to be. Okay, because I copied this code, maybe the double quotation that I use there is not similar to what is. You realize that this particular part has already been underlined. So if I save this and then I just go here, I try to run it, you can see it is giving me some errors. Okay, it is telling me that ignore since declaration of case insensitive constant is no longer supported. Yeah, so case insensitive is only supported if it is false, but if it is true, it requires that you need to make sure you write the same way it is supposed to be written. And now if I go back here and then I try to write it the correct way, if I just write it the way it is written at the top, message in capital letters, even before I run it, you can see that particular underline has disappeared, and therefore if I refresh, you should be able to see happy coding appearing at that particular point. Yeah, so that is how you can be able to run that particular program, and then you can be able to know if it is case sensitive or not. Now going further, we are going to look at the next principle that you need to know in PHP, and that is the principle of so there are some things that you need to remember. They should be always having the letters and an underscore. They don't need to start with the $sign. That is a constant. You don't need to start the $sign. It is supposed to be global. It should be used in that particular script, the entire of that particular script automatically. Okay, so those are some of the few things that you need to know in terms of the basics of how you are going to use that. Another very important principle is the principle of operators. So there is no way variables can work without operators. So operators are the ones that joins the variables together to form a statement. Yeah, so there are some variables operators that we need to know. The first operator that we need to know in this case is the operator we call arithmetic operator. Yeah, so maybe I can make it a little bit bigger so that it is visible enough. So when you talk about arithmetic operators, we have got an example here. We have got the assignment. Yeah, we have got the first one called addition operator. So when you talk about the addition operator, basically in this operator we have got, for example, a statement here. Yeah, so if you just check, you have got a statement here and the example and the results that is expected in this particular case. So we have got the example and then the statement and the response that we expect in this particular case. So in this particular case, we are saying that sum x and y. Then in the second one, we are saying that find the difference between x and y. And the third one is, so these are very basic operators that you need to know. We have got the multiplication, the division, and the modulus. You need to know how you are going to apply. For example, now when you talk about modulus, let's look at the modulus statement. Okay, So we have got the modular statement here. You can see the modulars is coming with the is supposed to have that statement whereby you need to have that statement whereby you need to have the percentage. Yeah. So if I do this, I think there is an error here of where I was trying to when I was typing it. So when you have such kind of a statement, it's supposed to give you the remainder. Now when you want to get maybe the exponential of a number, you are supposed to use two hysterics. You can see at the top here we have two hysterics. So this implies that x to y power. So if you say 5, maybe you say that maybe you want to have x raised to power 2, an exponential of 2. Yeah. So you realize that you need to write x and then you have two hysterics and then you have got to have 2 in front there. So that is exactly what exponent basically means in this particular case. The second group of operators is what we call assignment operator. So if you talk about assignment operator, there's basically assigning of values. So for example, here we have the equal sign, whereby we are saying that the value of y is set to be x. Yeah. Then you are saying that when you have got a plus and then an equal sign, then you are saying that get the sum of x and y and set the results to x. So that is a statement that has been displayed. So these are the statements that you can go through, and then you can see the examples and the description as shown in front there. Then you talk about comparison. When you want to compare two or more values, you are required to know these operators. We have the equal sign, we have the identical. Identical, you need to have 3 equal signs, and then you have not equal is supposed to be an exclamation and then an equal sign. Then you need to have maybe not equal, that is the symbol that has been displayed there. And also we have the description in front here, the less than sign, the greater than sign, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, with the results that you want to have. So you can pause the video and check, you can read through these particular results, and then we can be able to, you can be able to comprehend. Then next we have got the logical operators. We have got the and, the or, the not, and, or, and then the XOR. So you can see we have got those statements here, and then there is a difference between this and then this and. Yeah. So there is this and where you just write the word and then there is this and where you use the double ampersand. So these are the ampersand, the double ampersand. Yeah. And the difference is that with this one is that it returns true if both cases are true. Return true if both cases are true. So it doesn't matter the difference between the two. Basically, I think the wording. Yeah, basically this is a symbol and this is the keyword. So if you use both of them, in case of you want maybe to use this one or use this one interchangeably, then you are going to get the same results. The same applies to or. So if you just use the or and then you use these 2 slashes or 2 lines here, you can be able to get the same response. Then you have the XOR. The XOR basically returns true if x is less than y. So you can see that statement has already been written there. Then finally we have got the increment. So the increment, basically you want to add 1 to a certain value, what we call the pre-increment. So whereby these 2 equal signs, these 2 plus sign come before the variable. Yeah. So you add 1 to x, then return x. Yeah. So if you put those double equal plus signs or those addition sign in front of that variable, that is what you call post increment. And then when you have the minus sign before the variable, we call it pre decrement, and then when you have it before after the variable, it is called post increment. Then the last one is what we call string operator. So we have what we call concatenation. I've already given you an example of concatenation, and then you can be able to have concatenation and assignment. So when you talk about concatenation and assignment, you are appending a certain string or a certain value to the first value. So you can see that description that you have just been given in that particular case. Then we also have what we call the array. So there is our array, and these are some of the operators that can be used in the array. We have the union, A plus sign means union. Then we have equality, whereby you have the double equal sign. Then we have identity, which has triple equal sign. Then we have inequality, which you have got not equal to. And then we have inequality. Then you have got the non-quality, non-identity, where we have got an exclamation mark and then double equal sign. So those are some of the operators as a web developer that you should know in this particular case, and it will be able to help you to be able to run some kind of arithmetic operations that you have been given, or sometimes you want to do some kind of concatenation, checking some statements online when a user gives you an input and then you want maybe to validate it. Some of these statements are going to be used in that particular step. Now, those are some of the things I want us to look at. It forms the basics of PHP, and therefore you can go to practice or can go to look at those statements, look at those operators, the names of those operators, and the results that you expect. We have examples in front there, and then see you in my next video. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, and also you can go to turn the notification button on so that when I create the next video you will be informed. Thank you and bye bye.